A dry cleaner charges you $4 to $7 to clean one shirt. The bottle that handles most of those stains is already in your bathroom, and it costs about $1. Every red wine spill, every yellow collar, every gray pillowcase you hand over is another $4 on the bill. But the stains aren't the part they'd least like you knowing. That part is sewn into your own clothes, and it's number 8. Here are 15 things dry cleaners keep to themselves. Number 4 alone replaces a product you're probably buying every month. Blood, wine, coffee, grass, sweat. Nearly everything that ruins clothing is organic, and peroxide attacks organic material on contact. It's water carrying one unstable extra oxygen atom. That atom rips colored molecules apart, then the whole thing collapses back into plain water and oxygen. No residue, no perfume, none of that solvent smell your clothes come back with. Number 1, fresh blood and the foam that everybody misreads. Pour 3% peroxide straight onto a blood spot on a white cotton shirt, and it erupts into white foam almost instantly. That foam has very little to do with the stain. Blood carries an enzyme called catalase, and catalase exists to tear hydrogen peroxide apart, which is exactly the same reaction you get on a scraped knee. What removes the stain is the oxidation happening quietly underneath all that fizzing. Let it sit about a minute, blot with a clean white cloth, then repeat while any pink remains. One rule decides whether this works at all, and it's the water temperature. Blood is protein. Hot water cooks protein into the fiber the way an egg sets in a hot pan, and once that happens, no chemistry gets it out. So cold water only from the very first rinse. Dried blood still comes out, it just wants patience. Soak the area in cold water for 20 minutes to soften it, then treat as normal and expect 2 or 3 rounds instead of 1. A shirt with a serious stain like blood can run you $10 or more at the counter once the stain treatment goes on the ticket. Half the time, the reason it didn't come out at home is that somebody held it under a warm tap first, and by then, even the professional is fighting a stain that's been welded into the cotton. Number 2, red wine, coffee, and black tea all surrender to the same mix and straight peroxide, isn't it? 2 parts peroxide, 1 part plain dish soap mixed in a small glass bowl. Coffee and tea stain because of tannins. Red wine stains because of pigments called anthocyanins, the same compounds that make blueberries dark. All 3 are large colored organic molecules, so oxidation dismantles them easily. The complication is that they almost never arrive alone. There's cream in the coffee, oil from the meal, butter from whatever was on the table, and peroxide contains no surfactant at all, so it has no mechanism for lifting grease. The dish soap grabs the oil, the peroxide destroys the color sitting underneath it. Work the mix into the fabric, leave it 5 to 10 minutes, then launder as normal. Skip the salt trick you've heard about for wine, by the way. Salt pulls some liquid out of the fiber while it's still wet, which helps for about 90 seconds, and after that, it does nothing for the pigment that's already bonded. That 2-ingredient bowl is what's doing the work inside most of the little bottles of wine stain remover on the shelf beside the checkout. Number 3. Grass stains are chlorophyll, and chlorophyll oxidizes faster than almost anything else on this list. This matters more than it sounds, because grass is the stain that makes a parent write off a pair of white trousers or a school shirt entirely. Wet the green patch with peroxide, work it in with an old toothbrush, give it 10 minutes, then wash warm. On white cotton, it usually vanishes completely. If you can, dry that item outdoors in direct sunlight afterward. Ultraviolet light drives the same oxidation the peroxide started, and on whites, it finishes the job for free. This is why line-dried sheets look brighter than tumble-dried ones, and it has nothing to do with fresh air. The reason grass defeats so many people has nothing to do with the stain itself. They reach for a general-purpose spray with no oxidizer in it, scrub, watch it smear, then throw the garment into a hot tumble dryer out of frustration. That dryer is what makes it permanent, because heat bakes the remaining pigment into the fiber and no amount of peroxide reaches it afterward. So never dry a stained item until you've confirmed the stain is gone. That one habit saves more clothing than any product on the shelf. Number 4. Go into your laundry cupboard, pick up the tub of oxygen bleach, the color-safe brightener that costs somewhere between $10 and $20, and turn it around. The ingredient panel says sodium percarbonate. Sodium percarbonate is soda ash with hydrogen peroxide locked into it in dry, solid form. Drop it into water and it breaks apart, and what comes off it is hydrogen peroxide. That's the active ingredient. That's the entire product. Every scoop is doing precisely what the dollar bottle under your sink does, and the price difference buys you a plastic tub, a fragrance, a scoop, and the advertising that convinced you the scoop was necessary. Half a cup of 3% peroxide poured into the bleach compartment brightens a white load for a few cents. Now, the powder does have one real advantage. It's genuinely more stable than an opened bottle of liquid peroxide, which starts weakening the day you crack the seal, and for somebody running heavy loads daily, that reliability is worth paying for. But if you're buying a tub every month to brighten whites and paying a dry cleaner on top of it to handle stains this mix already covers, that's where a few $100s a year quietly disappears. And peroxide won't rescue a decade-old stain, it won't touch grease on its own, and there are fabrics coming up that it will destroy outright. Number 5. The stiff yellow patch in the armpit of a white shirt isn't sweat. This is the single most useful thing in this video for anyone who buys dress shirts. Sweat is mostly water and salt, and it's essentially colorless. That yellow comes from aluminium compounds in antiperspirant reacting with proteins in your sweat and bonding into the cotton, and it builds invisibly for months before it ever shows on the outside, which explains the part that drives people mad. Ordinary washing never shifts it, because you're attacking a mineral and protein complex with a detergent designed for dirt and oil. Mix peroxide and baking soda into a thick paste, work it into the yellow area with a soft brush, leave it 20 to 30 minutes, then wash. Then deal with the cause because otherwise it comes straight back. Antiperspirant contains aluminium. Deodorant, properly speaking, does not. Switch to an aluminium-free deodorant and the yellowing stops forming on new shirts entirely. This is the repair that rescues shirts people had already mentally written off. Number 6. The gray ring around a collar is the same problem wearing different clothes. Sebum, the oil your skin produces, collects along the fold with dead skin cells and hair product. Then the iron presses all of it into the weave with heat and holds it there. It's one of the main reasons shirts get sent out at $4 to $7 a time, week after week, on a standing order most households stopped questioning years ago. Lay the collar flat on a white towel, spray peroxide along the ring until it's properly wet, sprinkle a little baking soda over the top, and give it 15 minutes before the shirt goes anywhere near the machine. The peroxide oxidizes the discoloration, while the baking soda gives you something mildly gritty to work it with. The sequencing is the part that matters. Treat the collar before the wash and before the iron, never after. Ironing a collar that still has oil in it is the step that makes the mark permanent, and it's why a shirt that gets pressed every week grays faster than one that doesn't. Do that consistently, and a collar stays white for the life of the garment instead of sliding gray wash after wash until somebody replaces a shirt that was structurally perfect. Number 7. Whites go dingy because detergent residue, body oil, and minerals from hard water build up in the fiber, and every single wash adds another thin layer on top of the last. That's film sitting on top of perfectly good cotton. Here's the part the detergent aisle would rather skip. Most laundry detergents contain optical brighteners, fluorescent chemicals that stick to fabric and convert invisible ultraviolet light into visible blue light. The grime is still in the cotton. Your eye just reads the glow as white, which means every wash can leave a shirt dirtier and brighter at the same time, and the underlying dinginess keeps building where you can't see it. Add half a cup of 3% peroxide to a white load along with your normal detergent, and it oxidizes that accumulated layer instead of decorating it. On white cotton and linen, the difference after 2 or 3 washes is obvious held side by side against an untreated shirt. This one is maintenance rather than rescue, and it's the cheapest way we know to stop the slow slide that makes people replace clothing that never actually wore out. Which brings us to the thing the industry relies on most. Number 8, the care label sewn into the side seam of your clothes is not a statement of fact about the fabric. In the United States, care labels fall under the Federal Trade Commission's care labeling rule. That rule requires a manufacturer to provide instructions for one safe cleaning method. 1. They aren't obliged to list every method that works, and they're certainly not obliged to list the cheapest one. So a manufacturer who tested dry cleaning or who simply wants zero liability for a customer wrecking a garment in a machine at home can print dry clean only and sit entirely within the rules, even where a cold, gentle wash would have been perfectly safe. There's a second detail worth knowing. A label reading dry clean is a recommendation. Dry clean only is the stronger instruction. You've probably read those two as identical, and manufacturers have no reason to correct you. This isn't a license to ignore every label. On structured tailoring, real silk, leather trim, anything with fused interfacing or a lining that shrinks at a different rate to the shell, believe it completely. But a polyester blouse marked dry clean only is a very different proposition from a wool suit, and plenty of people are paying a solvent bill forever on a garment that never needed one, because a lawyer chose the safest available sentence. Number 9. Open a box of stored linens, an inherited tablecloth, a christening gown, a wedding dress that was professionally packed, and there's a good chance it's now the color of weak tea. Restoration services charge serious money for exactly this. That stain grew inside the box. It's slow oxidation of the cellulose fibers combined with residual detergent, starch, or body oil that never fully rinsed out before storage, quietly caramelizing in the dark for years. Invisible sugar and oil residue from a single spilled drink will do it on its own, which is why a tablecloth that looked spotless going in comes out marked. Soak the item in cool water with peroxide added and give it hours rather than minutes, checking as you go rather than walking away and hoping. Then fix the storage, or you'll be doing this again. Wash textiles before they go away, never after. Store them in cotton or acid-free tissue instead of a plastic box, because plastic traps moisture against the fiber, and keep them out of the loft where the temperature swings hardest. Be honest about the piece first, though. If it's genuinely irreplaceable, this is the moment to pay a textile specialist rather than experiment on your grandmother's lace. If this is saving you money, subscribe. We do this every week, one cheap bottle at a time. Number 10. Pillows are the thing nobody thinks to clean and everybody quietly replaces. That yellow map spreading out from the center of a pillow is sweat, body oil, and saliva soaking through the case over months and oxidizing in the filling underneath. People see it, assume the pillow is finished, and buy another pack for $40 to $80. Most pillows and mattress protectors are washable. Half a cup of peroxide in a hot wash strips that yellowing back while dealing with the bacteria behind the smell at the same time. Check the care label for the filling first, because down and memory foam have their own rules, and memory foam should never go in a machine at all. Wash 2 pillows at once so the drum stays balanced, and dry them completely right through the core, because a pillow still damp in the middle grows mold where you can't see it and never recovers. There's a quick test for whether a pillow is worth saving. Fold it in half and let go. If it springs back, the filling is fine and it's only stained. If it stays folded, the structure is gone and no amount of peroxide brings it back. Number 11. Towels go stiff and start smelling faintly sour within hours of getting damp, and adding more detergent makes it worse rather than better. The cause is usually fabric softener. Softener works by coating fibers in a waxy film. That film traps bacteria down in the loops of the cotton and blocks water from being absorbed, which is the one job a towel has. Run the towels on hot with a cup of peroxide, no detergent, and no softener at all. The peroxide oxidizes the bacterial layer while the hot water carries the loosened residue away, and on white and light towels that restores both the smell and the absorbency in a single cycle. Brand new towels have the same problem for a different reason. Manufacturers finish them with a coating to make them look plump and feel soft on the shelf, which is why a new towel pushes water around instead of soaking it up. Run new towels through once before use and they start working properly. Test colored towels on a hidden corner first, because repeated peroxide will slowly lift dye. And once they're stripped, stop using softener on towels entirely, because softener is what caused it. Number 12. Here's the one that undoes everything else on this list if you skip it. If your washing machine smells, it's putting that smell straight back into every load you wash. You can pre-treat stains all day and still pull out laundry that smells like a damp cupboard, and most people blame the detergent. Behind the rubber door seal of a front-loading machine, inside the drum, and in the detergent drawer, there's a biofilm of detergent sludge, softener residue, and bacteria living in permanent damp. Modern high-efficiency machines made this worse, not better. They use far less water by design, so there's less volume to rinse residue away, and it concentrates instead of leaving. Pour 2 cups of peroxide into an empty drum, run the hottest cycle the machine has, then wipe the seal with peroxide on a cloth afterward, getting right into the fold underneath where the black spots hide. Do that monthly, use less detergent than the label tells you to, and leave the door standing open between washes so the drum actually dries. An appliance call-out to diagnose a smelly washing machine can run you up to $150, and it usually ends with a technician telling you to do this exact thing. Number 13. The chemical that built the modern dry cleaning industry is called perchloroethylene, known in the trade as perc, and the industry has spent years moving away from it. The EPA classifies it as a likely human carcinogen, it's tightly regulated, and California banned its use in dry cleaning outright. That faint, sharp smell on a garment that's just come back in plastic is residual solvent, which is precisely why the standard advice is to strip the plastic off and air the item before it goes anywhere near your wardrobe. Now, the part worth knowing before you pay extra for the greener option. When a shop advertises organic dry cleaning, that word carries no regulatory meaning whatsoever in this context. In chemistry, organic simply means the molecule contains carbon, and petroleum-based solvents are carbon-based by definition. So a hydrocarbon solvent qualifies as organic in the strictest technical sense, while being a petroleum distillate. Genuinely different systems do exist, liquid carbon dioxide and professional wet cleaning among them, but the word on the sign won't tell you which one you're standing in. None of that makes your local dry cleaner a hazard. It does mean the process you're paying a premium for is a solvent process with real trade-offs, and for an organic stain on a washable fabric, an oxidizer and cold water is the gentler option, as well as the cheaper one, which makes the next one the most important 90 seconds in this video. Number 14, peroxide is a bleach. A mild one at 3%, but a bleach, and it can't tell the difference between a stain and the dye you paid for. So before it touches anything colored, turn the garment inside out and find a hidden seam, a hem allowance, or the tail of a shirt that stays tucked in. Dab a little peroxide on with a cotton bud, wait 90 seconds. Press a clean white cloth against the spot. If color transfers onto that cloth, stop. The dye isn't stable and the garment goes to a professional. If nothing transfers, you're clear to treat the stain. Test the actual area you plan to treat where you can, too. Dye takes differently across a garment, and a printed panel or a contrast stitch can fail the test when the main body passes it easily. Every colored item, every time, no exceptions. Everybody who has ever bleached a pale patch into a favorite shirt skipped exactly this step, and it cost them a great deal more than 90 seconds would have. Number 15, and the limits, because knowing where to stop is what keeps this cheap instead of expensive. Keep peroxide away from wool, silk, cashmere, and anything vintage. Those are protein fibers, structurally far closer to your own hair than to cotton, and an oxidizer attacks them directly. It weakens the fiber and dulls the finish, and neither comes back. The same logic rules out anything with elastane in it after repeated exposure. Don't expect it to touch oil, grease, or ballpoint ink, because with no surfactant, it has no mechanism for lifting them. Keep it in the brown bottle it came in because light breaks it down into ordinary water, and replace it around 6 months after opening. If you're not sure yours is still alive, pour a little into a stainless steel sink. If it fizzes on the metal, it's working. If it sits there silent and flat, it's water, and it'll clean nothing. And never mix it with vinegar in the same bottle. Together, they make peracetic acid, which is corrosive and irritates eyes and lungs. Use one, rinse the surface, then use the other. Now look at what all 15 of those actually have in common. Blood, wine, grass, sweat, collar grime, the yellow in a stored tablecloth, the film on a gray shirt, the biofilm in the machine. Every one of them is organic, and organic material is the one thing an oxidizer is built to take apart. The dry cleaning industry isn't selling you a better stain remover. It's selling you a solvent, a pressing service, and a care label that was never required to mention the alternative existed. So the useful skill here is looking at a stain and asking one question before you touch it. Is this organic, or is it oil, mineral, or dye? Organic goes to the brown bottle. The other 3 go somewhere else, and now you know which is which. That same bottle handles about a dozen jobs in the bathroom that nobody associates with it either, and the mold one surprises everybody. That video's on screen now.